Welcome to Rotary program BelAhdan, the show that brings you ISIS to your living room. No, ISIS now in the news is becoming now a household name. ISIS stands for Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. This is a new phenomenon now that's sweeping the Middle East now. All of a sudden, all this strange people and how the media portray ISIS and talking about like it's just strange phenomena. We need to know who they are, where they come from, what is this new movement. They're not Qaeda, they are not here and there. So we have here Professor Fouzi Slisli. He is extensive research and thought in Islam and politics, and he's following the situation in Iraq and Syria. Welcome to BelAhdan.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you so much for coming. You know, I've never heard of this ISIS like a month or 2 months ago, and I follow, you know, closely the news, and all of a sudden, everybody's talking about those groups and the massive, just like a lightning struck that area, and all of a sudden they take in major series. This is you know, I'm not saying amazing, but who are they? Where they're coming from? How could they make this huge advancement in such a short time?
Well, ISIS was declared in 2013, but originally it is the branch of the global jihad in Iraq. It is known as the Islamic State of Iraq, and it existed as such as Al-Qaeda's branch in Iraq, or the branch of the global jihad in Iraq, for about 10 years. It evolved out of the insurgency against the US invasion of Iraq, and has always been an obscure branch of the global jihad, more isolated in a way and less transparent. Nobody ever knew who the people who were behind it. I mean, at some point, al-Zarqawi, Abu Mus'ab al-Zarqawi, was one of the founders and, you know, the original or early
who was killed.
Leaders. He was killed in 2006. But eventually the ISI, the Islamic State of Iraq, has been known of being a little bit vague and always completely secret. With the beginning of the revolution in Syria and the development of the revolution into an armed struggle against Assad, eventually it seems that the global jihad had a plan to operate in Syria, right? And this plan was done in conjunction with their Iraqi branch, because it's the closest. But it seems that halfway through it, the Iraqi branch decided to actually take over the project and announce itself as the state for both Syria and for Iraq, which amounted to practically a coup by the Islamic State of Iraq, or the leaders of the Islamic State of Iraq, against the global jihad leadership.
So the Iraqi ISIS, was it driven by a nationalistic, you know, we are, you know, you say global jihad, but they want to be separated from global jihad and, you know, operate exclusively by Iraqis or under the wing of Iraqi resistance?
Right. It's a good question in the sense that originally the Islamic State of Iraq, which evolved out of, I think, 18 Iraqi resistance group back in 2003 or 2004, and became the Islamic State of Iraq, was a Salafiyya Jihadiyya group committed to the program of the global jihad. That means they're not nationalistic.
I see.
But 10 years into it, and with the announcement of the Islamic State of Iraq and Sham, and there is strong indication that the Iraqi branch of the global jihad is being hijacked by ex-Ba'athist generals, ex-Saddam Hussein generals. People that have been mentioned, like Haji Bakr, who has been killed in Syria, and others, and Izzat al-Duri, who is still around in Iraq. And those guys are known by observers and scientists and experts that they are nationalists. So, I mean, probably we have a case of an Islamist jihadi group that's hijacked by ex-Ba'ath Saddam generals and who are using it now, right, practically to carve out a Sunni nationalist enclave within Iraq, right? I don't think
they've been, they have support.
Well, it seems to be. I mean, what happened to Iraq is still, the dust hasn't settled on it yet. But it seems to be that there is some kind of agreement between the US, Iraq's Sunni tribesmen, and Ba'athist generals. And the idea is to separate Iraq, to split it into 3 countries. So you have the Kurds taking
It's a done deal now, the Kurds.
It seems like Kurdistan is going independent. But notice that Iran and Maliki do not lose much because they take Baghdad, they take...
Who takes the oil? That's the most...
Well, most of the oil is in the south.
Yeah.
So it stays in Maliki and Iran's possession. The oil also is in Kirkuk, and that goes with independent Kurdistan. So what you have left there are a bunch of Sunnis and rocks, basically. And I think the plan...
a lot of rhetoric.
And a lot of rhetoric. So ISIS is presenting itself like it's liberating land and, you know, and defeating Maliki. Although, I mean, I have said from the very beginning, if ISIS is marching on Baghdad, I am willing to give it the benefit of the doubt.
I see. Well, haven't they tried? I think they've tried it.
Well,
wasn't it serious?
Not at all. Okay. ISIS immediately went to besiege Syrian resistance movement, Syrian jihadi groups in Deir ez-Zor, in Al-Hasaka, in Al-Bukamal, and the eastern region of Syria. And I think we are looking at a scenario where the Assad regime will also collapse in the eastern province, right, in the same way that the Maliki regime collapsed in Mosul.
It's interesting. So what's the relationship between Al-Assad regime and ISIS? Because they said the Assad left them to operate freely.
Well, Ahmad, I mean, I told you 3 years ago we met here that the Arab Spring was not like a revolution in Egypt or a revolution in Tunisia or Yemen or Syria. I told you this is the regional Arab order that's collapsing. And there's going to be a situation of lawlessness for a few years. And there's going to be a lot of fighting and negotiations to erect a new regional order. Now, we have the big powers, the US, Russia, Iran, whoever. We have the local regime, the Gulf, the local regimes in Syria, Iraq. But we also have the populations, right? And Syria has been crucial because it's like, if you want, it's like the joint on which the regional order rests. If Syria falls, Israel is completely uncovered. If Syria falls, the Gulf remains uncovered. If Syria falls, Iran's foreign policy in the Arab world collapses. So there is just a lot, too much at stake in Syria. And I think what's happening in Iraq is that the United States struck a deal with Sunni tribesmen and ex-Ba'athist generals who brought ISIS with them to give them Sunni Iraq, right, the Sunni triangle. And that would strengthen ISIS in its war against the Syrian rebels. And that, in a way, the Syrian revolution...
The Free Army.
It's like a pincer movement. The Syrian revolution is taken in a pincer movement between the Syrian Ba'ath and Shia extremists and the Iraqi Ba'ath and Sunni extremists. And you have the Syrian revolution in the middle as in a kind of a pincer movement. And with today's announcement that Israel is waging war on Gaza, I think, you know, that's like a third player coming from the region of the Golan, where already there is Jabhat al-Nusra and Ahrar al-Sham and the Islamic Front of the Syrian Revolution are already positioned there.
Was the American taken by surprise? You said they are working, they've been working with the Ba'athi and the Sunni tribes.
I don't think so. I think President Obama...
Because the way they acted like, well, what's going on? And let's meet with, let's try to plan to action. And it seems like very disorganized foreign policy now in the area.
Ahmad, we've heard the United States threatened to bomb Assad for like 6 or 7 months last year. Did anything happen?
No.
Well, I think we're looking at the same thing. The United States has almost completely disengaged from the Middle East. The U.S. doesn't need the oil of the Middle East. The U.S. in a way is like subcontracting the Middle East to new players, to Iran, because it has militias capable of countering the jihadis movement in the Middle East, or also to groups like ISIS, right, who are like volatile. Nobody knows who's controlling them. They're willing to like freelance for a number of, you know, parties in the conflict. And the U.S. is just playing by proxies. It's just subcontracting.
But every time there is a collapse of an order of some sort, the United States interest or influence is weakening. You know, they only can work with well-established dictatorship or state. This is no longer is the case.
No, it's no longer, because the regional order, the borders aren't in place anymore.
No.
Who is going to put people in place between Libya and Tunisia and Algeria? That's all becoming porous.
Yeah.
Who is going to keep the Egyptians within Egypt?
Yeah.
Who is going to organize, you know, economic, you know, situations in all
So
this
there
area?
will be a new player other than the United States and NATO and West and whatever the old colonial.
All bets are up. I mean, right now we have a huge vacuum, power vacuum in the area.
Well, hold on that thought, because we'll take a short break and then we'll come back to this. And as you know, I just had an interview with a Syrian artist, major actor there in Syrian Arab world, and he came to make his life in new land in America, applied for asylum, and now he's acting with Tom Hanks and other major movies. It's a great story, and I have this interview with you, and we'll see you here back in a few minutes. Assalamu alaikum, and God bless you all. How can somebody with the name Jihad storm Hollywood and make it through movies? And this is a very public venues, and you are coming in an area where Islamophobia and anti-Arab and sentiment is very high, and if somebody wants to give you a role, he's taking a lot of risk.
Well, the name remains a name when your attitude is different.
I like that.
Yes, and you can change your name. I changed it from the first day I came here. I knew the name was ruined, and you know, you don't have time to explain to everybody that this name is noble. It was used by Christians and Muslims and all over the times, and then it was used and it was ruined and so and so. So the easiest way was like for example, Chinese, when they go to the Middle East, they would pick Arab names.
They do.
Yes. In Syria, I was introduced to so many Chinese: Mohammed, Adnan, Salim.
Even if they're not converts like Muslims.
No. But because of the problem with names, they would pick, like, it was easy for them.
Oh, I see.
From 92 till 2011, I used to be one of the most busy actors in the Middle East, and my career was comfortable, was easy, was yeah, like any star in the world. So and I always choose what to do. Sometimes not when we, yeah, you know, and but mostly I choose good TV shows.
Under a dictatorship of an Assad regime, you know, do you have a space? Do you have a space to express this sort of issue without any ramification on your career or your family?
Well, you have to be smart.